Hey everyone, welcome back to our live stream today. We are working on trimming the Lonseal. So this is our Lonseal flooring. It's a vinyl floor, and it's designed to be put on with a two-part epoxy that Lonseal makes and sells. And so we've purchased this, and we're going to get ready to trim it. So what you want to do when you purchase any type of vinyl flooring, this is just my opinion, and from doing it before, is you want to lay it out and then trim the excess that you're going to have. Now you can roll it in and then, after it's glued down, trim as you go. However, it makes it really challenging to push the sides in and get a good bond on the corners, or just any of the edges. Possibly will make it messy, and then the roller that you're going to need to roll this floor down, it'll make it challenging to actually do that part as well. So we're going to go over that. Hope you guys enjoy this new setup. We are now streaming in 4K. We did a test yesterday, so this stream should look pretty good. I'm really happy about the details with the new camera, and I think it's going to benefit you guys so you can see in more detail what's going on here in the shop. So we're going to need a couple things in here besides the flooring. We're not gluing the flooring in, by the way. We are just going to roll it out and then trim it. So I'm going to fix the camera into its first position. So we got a couple positions with the camera. This is the first angle, so it's going to snap here. And then that way I can actually, let's see, let me line this up really quick. There we go. So that way, when we're down here in the floor, the camera's not going to be hunting all around because it's actually on a gimbal and it'll actually move and track me. But that's going to be distracting for you guys. So, but what we got to do is get this all framed up. So this sits like this. So I'm going to start the video here. But if you guys haven't seen the stream before, the second position goes here, and that locks it so that when we get in the van in a minute, and I'm showing you how to actually lay this out, you guys can see me here and kind of what I'm doing on the floor. Because we're going to be working back here first, and then we'll roll it out, come back here to the back. And then, for example, later in the week, we're going to be working on the AC unit. So this third snap position will show the top of the roof. And then this is the fourth one. And I won't be doing this a lot, but I'll show you that it actually will follow me. And I was thinking about using it to kind of do this and then talk over here, but it does freak out sometimes, so this might not be the best. But if it's working and we're talking over here in the water system, or we come over here and we're talking about the power system, it kind of follows around. But I don't know, it's a cool feature, but I know it can get distracting. So we just whenever you see the camera jerk like that going in the future, is just locking into a position so that we can start the video. All right, let's go ahead and kick this off. So let's talk about the materials that you're going to need to do a layout and trim of the floor. So I can't remember where I found this technique out, but we're actually going to use 2 wood screws. So you need 2 wood screws, and we're going to drill one here, not in this metal, we're using this metal as a reference. And then the second piece, which we'll actually put in first, that's going to go all the way up here. And it's going to go in the center of the floor. So we have our center rib of the van, center. So we're going to mark where that is on the wood. And all the way down the front, middle, and the back. And then once we do that, we'll roll the Lonseal out, and we'll lock the floor in after we align it. And then that way, all we have to do is, one, we can practice how we're going to glue the floor in by flipping it over, flipping it back. 2, it's going to, well, I guess 1 is going to line it up. 2 is going to be able to kind of help you practice the install. And then 3, what it's going to do is you'll find the middle, and then that'll now be your home reference point. So once we trim it and we take it out, when we put it back in to put the adhesive on there, you'll have the screw hole still there where it needed to be. Screw hole is in the Lonseal, and it just makes the process much easier. So 2 wood screws. I always just keep this green tape. I love this. You guys see me using the shop all the time just to, I don't know, stick something down. You'll need a drill so that you can drill in the wood screws. And then you're going to need a tape measure. And then you're going to need 2 of these guys. So these are essentially like box cutters, but they're by OLFA. OLFA. It doesn't matter what kind you get. I just there's no affiliation with this brand, but these. If you guys watch Home Renovision, that YouTube channel, he swears by these, and that's where I got these from, and they're amazing. And the best thing is they sell them at Lowe's. So what's nice is it's Japanese steel that's inside these razors, and it's extremely sharp. And I have 2 of these, and we're going to use this to make our trim cuts. All right, so we got that, and that's it. That means we're going to get ready to go. Now, one thing I did forget is my permanent marker. If you guys have joined the live stream before, I have lots of them, but I can't find them. So give me just a second. I'm going to find where I laid those down. I just need one. But let's see if I can find my permanent marker. So what the permanent marker is going to do is it is there so that we can, this one's fine. This is good. It's my giant one, but it'll be fine. So the permanent marker is so that we can find our center and find the limits to our end covers, end caps, whatever you want to call them. So this bottom piece right here, this is our trim piece. Now the kit that we got, no affiliation here, but I'm going to show you, go to my face and let me go to the website. So no affiliation with this company, I just like giving you guys really good information. So we're going to head on over to avcrig.com. This is the company that I got the floor plans from, as well as the trim pieces. So if we go to van type, transit, high roof, it doesn't really matter. We're going to kind of come to the same page. So the first thing we did is I'll show you their high-end product. So this is their insulated floor system. This system is already ready to go. It is essentially a zip sheathing system that has the 1/2-inch plywood with the 1-inch rigid foam insulation that is made together as one piece. Has an R value of about 6.6, and I think that is the wood is making it have that higher R value, because this is the system I'm using is an R5. So this one's just a little bit better with a 6.6, but I think that is taken into account the wood insulative value, but don't quote me on that. Anyway, you can purchase this system right here and have it shipped to you. If this is something that's in your budget and you don't want to pre-cut this out, you want to save time, but then also maybe you just the handyman skills aren't there for doing precise work, which is completely fine. You know, there's a DIY van for every skill level. Now, if you're like me and you're going to cut a bunch of holes out of the floor, and maybe you don't want to waste that material that's going to be cut away anyway, because I'm essentially cutting about 1/3 of this floor out. So, you know, I thought it would be more advantageous to source my own plywood. I got it from Lowe's, and I used their ABC Rig Transit Paper Pattern Floors. And it's essentially like a blueprint style paper. You know, it's the big paper that's been printed out on a plotter, which is just an oversized printer. And so it's full size. So you basically just lay it down on the piece of wood and trace it out. You're good to go. And the cost is much less expensive. Plus, you can reuse it, you know, if you want to, or maybe if you need to fix something. Say you mess something up, you can put it on another piece of plywood and cut it out again, and you can reuse the paper. It's pretty nice. Now, the ABC Trim Floor Step and Trim, this is what I'm talking about right now. So this piece right here, you can buy as a kit. It comes with this little floor step threshold. It comes with the rear of the van, as well as the front step part, or the transition piece between the driver and passenger seat and the back of the van. Now, they have since modified. You can see how there's these holes drilled into it. So mine was one of the early versions because it was just an early version. All right. But you can buy this kit. It comes with grip tape, some stickers. This back part right here, this little cap is so that you can cover the rear spare tire cap covered. That way you can have the cap to re-access the floor, the little winch that's in the floor. If you still wanted to use that for our setup, we're not using that anymore. So the floor is just covering that because we have oversized our tires, which means there's no reason to use that underfloor pan anymore. If the future customer wants to use it, they can. All you gotta do is just drill a hole through the floor. They're good to go. But this kit is pretty nice because you can see it cleans up the rear of the van really nice. And believe it or not, this is the exact floor that we're going to be putting in the Ford Transit. So when we're done, ours is going to look just like this. So black on black, really nice and clean. And this rear panel, they have multiple screw holes in there. We'll see about that when we get close. I may use marine adhesive on this back part instead of the screws. So that's still up in the air. We're just going to do one thing, everything one step at a time. But essentially, this is what the rear of the floor is going to look like in my van. All right, and that kit is, that's the current pricing. And they're powder coated very well, and it's hard to find another kit as well made as this. Again, it's not sponsored, it's just, I have really done my research and looked at a lot of stuff on the internet, and it's hard to find good quality powder coated material that's not painted steel. So you have to really make sure something's powder coated. Powder coated versus painted is completely two different worlds. It has to do with the prep and the bonding process, as well as the material used. And powder coat is premium. It's going to last way longer, and this is a high wear area, so you want to make sure it's powder coated. All right, let's get started here. So now that you guys know where to find these trim panels, what we're going to do is we're going to measure from the back on this edge with our permanent marker that we finally found. And this measuring on this back side, we're going to find the offset from the edge of the floor. We're going to do that because that's how far in or how far from the edge our screw is going to go. So we're going to put that in the center of whatever we measure. We're going to go to the front of the van. We're also going to go take that offset, go to the center of whatever that measured, and then that makes sure that wherever we screw in, the screw hole that we drill will always be covered by a trim piece. So you'll never see it once the trim piece goes down. Last thing we want to do is drill a hole in our nice vinyl that we will see later. So we want to make sure it is covered up. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. So back here, we just got our piece, and we're going to kind of just go for whatever we think is about center. We're just going to make a line. And we'll find the true center here going this way in a minute. But now we can take this piece off, and you guys can see what it looks like now. So this is going to allow us to know where we can locate our screw hole. We're going to go to the front, and we're going to do the same thing. The front trim piece is pretty much the same, it just doesn't have a curve in it. So we're going to lay this over. Kind of try to get close to the center as you can. You make the line wider if you need to. And then we're just going to take that off. And then since our pieces of wood are cut out on this back side, let's see here. I'm actually going to take my drywall square. If you guys don't have one of these, it's okay, but the method might have to be different. A drywall square is nice because it's very long. It's made for drywall, but this is a drywall square, if you guys have not seen one before. Or I call it a drywall square. It's just a very long square. And this way, we can go and find our center rib right here. Just going to line this up. And then we're going to put it right there in the middle. And then we're just going to translate that center up here. And we're going to just put a little mark in the middle. And now that is the center of where we're going to put the front piece. And in the back, we just do the opposite. Before I forget, I let this sit in the sun outside about 20 minutes before we came in here. So it's still kind of residually warm. If you guys can do that, it's a bonus, but you don't have to do that. It's just gonna make it easier to unravel it. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna draw a line right here, and that way we're just gonna be able to move our square. And we obviously won't be using the back to square this line up, but we're just gonna get it as close as possible, because it's not the end of the day if this is off a little bit, but I like to try to be perfect first and then change it up later if I have to. Close to perfect, how about that? All right, so now we've got our point here, and then we got our point up there in the front. That's right, one thing I wanted to do is actually, I wanted to draw 2 more lines since I'm kind of teaching you guys. I wouldn't normally do this, but I think this will help drive the point home a little bit better. So we're just going to take this and make a couple marks, just like that. Almost like a runway. Again, this is more for teaching purposes. Now, where this would be beneficial to you is if you do want to use this as a method to make sure you're not putting too much epoxy on one side. It's just a good reference mark. When we go to put the epoxy on, we'll want to make sure that we come close to this and then do our epoxy, because when we flip it over, we'll do the other side. All right. Let's see if you guys can see that on this camera, the new camera. Oh, it's awesome. That's that's better than I expected. Let's do some more here in the back. All right. Yeah, so let's continue it down the back here. Okay, so now we got our runway marks there. And that's just going to help guide us through this whole process. So we don't need our trim pieces anymore. So take them out of the van. Okay, now we're going to open up our package. And make sure you do not cut into the other part of the package. I tried to do everything by hand as much as I could first, and then bring out the razor. The crazy thing is this thing is extremely sharp. I mean, you can just like barely lay it on there, and it will cut. I'm just like barely put any pressure on that. You don't want to cut into the Lonseal. It's very resilient, but it's obviously not meant to be cut by through a razor. This is not too loud. Now you may need, depending on what you want to do, you may need to have somebody help you. This roll is about 65 pounds. There's no special way to do this, so this may be entertaining for you guys. So hopefully this shows you the point of, you know, pre-cutting it to get it as close as you can. Because if you can imagine, if you can imagine doing this while you're trying to spread the epoxy. So that is why this is what you want to do ahead of time. Okay, so this is, see how wide this is? It's 6 feet wide, yeah. So we're gonna take our green tape. I'm gonna put a little bit of tape on our 3 foot mark, or we'll find our center at 3 feet. And this is gonna help us line up that part that I was talking to you guys about. Okay, so we got our center there. And we're just going to shift it so we can do the other side. And then we'll do the same thing at the front. It also depends on what Lonseal you actually get, because this one is this is one of the thicker versions. So they have different types of protection. So they still at 6 feet, but it's a little bit longer than 6 feet. I mean, a little bit wider than 6 feet, which is okay. All right, so we just made 2 lines. So we're obviously just going to go in the middle of that. We always do the front first. That way we can square it up from the cut. So as long as whoever you're getting it from has cut it square, which this one looks really square, you should be pretty good. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat while we're doing all this. And this one, if you can measure it, try to get it closer to the edge so you know, or your markings that is. That way you can get as accurate as you can. We want the accuracy because we're going to take this out. When we go to put the Lonseal back in, we want it to be, you know, perfectly where we left it, or where we marked it. All right, we're good there. We're going to extend our line just to the edge, so that way we can see it when it's being covered up. Something good to do before you actually drill your screw in up here at the front is just, just measure backwards just as a triple check. You should be looking at something like 3/4 of an inch back. So on the Lonseal, you're going to go 3/4 of an inch back, and then that is where your screw hole is going to go. Okay, we're gonna measure off of this 3/4. So what's cool is this thing is at an angle right now. It's kind of twisted a little bit like that. But what we can do is, since we have this edge here right on the corner, if we go ahead and we put in our screw, then we can move it left to right in the back, and it's going to be able to it'll make it easier to align it. All right, so we got 3/4 of an inch. Go ahead and drill through. All right, now watch this. This is where you can kind of get to see why this makes sense. Oh, thanks, Go and Do. I'm so good that it looks great. Yeah, that's awesome. So watch this. See, now you can take this and See, we're off over here, so we can just, all we gotta do is just pull it until we get it perfectly lined up. Just like that. Just gonna go back and forth and kind of see where we want it to go. Just give it a little bit of a jerk to straighten it up. Okay, that's where our next one's gonna go. So since you're always going to want to order this with about a foot extra. So we know this is 6 inches wide. That's how they sell it. And I bought 12 feet, but they gave me 12 feet 2 inches. So they gave me about an extra inch left to right, or width, an extra inch wide, and about 2 inches longer. So now what we're going to do is roll this edge over, and just to be super careful, let's all right, let's see how fancy this camera can be. Let me move my time lapse back a little bit. Oh, that's very convenient. All right, so we've got 7 3/4. So 7 3/4 from the back of the van. All right. So that's the back of the van right there. Made a little scratch mark, and then I just want to go. I'm just going to do a 1/2 inch. I did a 1/2 inch up front. Okay, let's do that. So we went and we measured to the back of the floor, and then we went in another 1/2 of an inch to drill this one. And that way we know it'll be covered up. So that's the cool part. So now with those 2 holes, we're going to see what needs to be trimmed out in just a second. But now I'm just going to show you everything, which is, this is where you can practice how you're going to actually put it in the van. So, and yeah, I'll watch the camera on the gimbal. Sometimes it goes crazy if I leave it. But this one is going to allow us to come and pull this over, just like that. So let me go up there and see how that's doing. Might have to go back and fix the camera, but we're trying things out with this new camera. It's supposed to actually find me and then zoom in. So that's pretty cool. But check this out. So you see how I have this actually rolled over? So what you'll want to do before we do the install, we'll still go over this on install day, but this is what I'm talking about. You can kind of see those runway lines under there, but since you have such little time, yeah, that's the hunting I was telling you about. Yeah, let's just pause the camera. It is cool, but I know it's not a good viewing experience. Okay. There we go. So, see how we have this flipped over? So what this is going to do now is allow us to only work on this area, so one side at a time. When we get to the epoxy portion of this, everything happens very quickly. So we only have 15 minutes to put the epoxy from the front to the back. So you divide it in half, 7.5 minutes. So you have 7.5 minutes to do this one side. So that's troweling it out, getting the level right. And then once you've troweled it out, you'll be able to come over here to this other side. Obviously, you'll come from the back. But this way you can roll it over the epoxy and then make sure all your air bubbles are out. Hop on the other side, flip it over, and these screws are in there the whole time. So your alignment is not being messed up at any given time. All right, so a couple of things that allow us to have a little bit of leeway during this project. We're gonna cut out the shower pan, the flip and fold seat, and for the flip and fold seat, I may try and cut the middle out and then roll it in, but my plans are for that to trim this up with 1.5 inch aluminum angle. So we'll do some precise cuts, and then we'll make our own little border for that. You could try to cut and turn it down inward. So I'll do that first, just because we have nothing to lose. But if you have something like this and you do mess up, you can always take aluminum trim, paint it black, and then trim this out with angle, have it have a professional look. The shower pan, it has a 1-inch lip overhang on this whole entire shower pan, so we don't have to worry about that. We can cut it exact to size, which is what we're going to do, and then that's all good. As we come over here, so let's just go ahead and put this back where it needs to go. Your forged seats will overhang here, so that's going to be an issue for you. What's also going to arise as an issue is this seat, this little clip-in over here on the right-hand side. Most people actually cut that off. If you can't see what I'm talking about, I'll try to mention it again in a future video. But essentially is a little attachment point on the back of a Ford Transit seat. I'll probably grind that off, so just look for that in a future video. So as the shower pan comes out, as we do this right here, we're going to start moving towards the heater area. So for the heater area, what we want to do is we're going to want to trim it out completely. One, it's completely hidden over here. You'll never see it. Two, we don't want any of this vinyl, directly touching our heater. Even though the heater doesn't get hot enough on the outside typically to do anything around the van, it's just a good thing to look out for. And then next, what we have is we will have our Adventure Wagon panels that go in here. And there was a viewer that was asking about what's the best way to measure from here to the floor to cut off the excess. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to measure off the L-track to the floor. And then once we get finished with the floor, we'll take our final measurement from the bottom of the floor up to the L-track on this inside lip. That number will tell us, we'll subtract it from the overall width, and that's how much we'll take off the bottom. And that way this panel will fit flush in there. We don't want this rolled up to the panel, we want it under the panel. All right, and then as we come to the back, we'll do the same thing. We'll be very careful back here, because remember, if you have wiring already in the floor or your DC to DC chargers that are being powered off the engine battery, they're probably right here, so just be careful when you cut that you're not cutting into that. So that's why this is a good example of why we're not doing epoxy and trim the floor at the same time. That way we don't have to rush, we can take our time. Same thing that happens as we go to the back. We'll come all the way back here, and we will finish cutting this edge over here. We'll take this out. So we want our edge to be super clean so that when we put this back in, that edge is really nice where this is. So we'll take this out. We no longer need it as a little prop. And what we'll do is we'll take the whole floor in, and then we'll find out where we need to trim it and get it close. Now, what you can do, this is what also I did on Thomas's van, is I took it all the way to the edge so it was almost touching, and I rolled it down with the epoxy, and then once the epoxy cured, I then cut the sharp edge. So that's another thing that we might do, or you guys can do. Over here, some people keep it and have it rolled up on the wheel well. We won't be doing that because remember, we're repurposing our fender covers, and they're actually going down into this pocket. So we'll make sure that we just trim it close. All right, so that is that part. This is a no-no, what I just did. You need to make sure that that is not where you're going to be walking. And let's just see, we got one more area up here. Now this area up here, I just noticed that we have we've come back about 1/8 of an inch off this edge, which is okay because we're gonna bolt this cover down. But just be careful when we did the back. The back was straight. This front part, cut-wise, looks like it was just they took a little bit more off on the left side than the right. So it's straight in the back, but so really we wanted to use the back as the front, vice versa, but this is the way we rolled it out. It's no big deal. Just be aware when you do put your screw in the back that you go back and double check the front. But this is okay up here. All right. While I'm up here, I'm just going through all the thoughts that I had when I did the last install. You're going to make sure you want to put something underneath this edge and really tape off your factory floor, like that plastic floor in the Transit, because you don't want to put the epoxy on here, and when you have the roller, you don't want it kind of oozing over the edge onto something that you can't get it off of. So make sure you protect that. But we'll go over that when we get closer to the next part. Okay, so we don't have any bubbles right here in the middle, which means, we don't have any big humps. So everything in here is pretty much where it's going to be. Right here we have our shower pan. And I'm just kind of walking on it to kind of define the edge a little bit to where I'm going to be cutting. But I think that'll be a great one to cut out first. I want to find this edge really nice on at least one side, because what I'm going to do is this part right here is going to be perfectly, we're going to be reusing this for the lid of the shower pan in the floor. So this is what's going to give us that nice hidden shower pan. So let me show you that piece really quick. So this is our shower pan cover. And so this is going to go, let's see, right like this. So as you can imagine, when we cut this Lonseal out, what we're going to want to do is keep it so that we can put it back on top of here. We'll epoxy this, and now this hidden pan will have the same texture as the floor, and it'll be the same like a puzzle piece. It'll go right where we cut this piece out. All right, for this one, there's two blades. There's this one, but it can, if you push it too hard, it can retract on its own. So I'm going to get the other one, this one. And this one has a locking wheel, and that way it won't mess with me. All right, so let's make sure we have this edge over here. We got one final check on our front and our back. Looks good. Once again, guys, if you have any questions while you're watching this live, you can pause at any time, take some questions. All right, that's gonna look good. All right, so we just want to really want to find our edge. Yeah, for this middle piece, we don't have too much leniency with this finding this edge here, and that's really just for me. You guys can, you guys might have a different situation, but for me, I only have about a 1/4 inch of area to mess up, if you know what I'm saying. Okay, good. We got our edge right where the floor is. Again, take your time. We don't want to rush and then pull the razor across our brand new floor. These floors are not cheap. They're not cheap because they're very durable. One of the benefits of these floors is it has to do with the expansion and contraction. If you guys do like a metal or some type of floating floor, I mean not metal, what am I trying to say? Like a click lock or floating type of floor. The only downside to that is if you don't allow proper expansion, so maybe up to like a 1/4 inch, 1/4 of an inch or more, or probably 1/8 of an inch or more. I put the click lock flooring in my personal van, and even though I knew to leave expansion joints like around the edges, it still buckled. So the reason that Lonseal is such a good product to go with is because the epoxy and the way that it's installed, it can kind of move and breathe with the floor, and you don't get these buckling or bubbles and stuff like that. So I'm just putting this tape on here. It's kind of like a guide, just so I don't go too far. It's not a perfect guide, but it's it will help. Also, make sure you don't have anything, you know, on your feet, like rocks or something like that from the driveway. Shop floor is pretty clean, so I'm good to go. Looks like the video looks like it's good. Sound's on? Okay. Of course, you guys will let me know if something messes up, I'm sure. Okay, so we got our first edge. That's good. I'll come over here. I'm going slow to make sure I'm not kind of curving in. Then I'm just going to kind of visually give myself a piece of tape here. So I know where I'm supposed to stop in case I just keep on going. So now I can actually come in and feel if I'm over too much or not. Again, you guys might not have to be this precise, but for the shower pan to look the way I want it to, I'm going to need to do this like this. All right, so that one. Excellent. All right, so next, let's see if I can go this way. Make sure you know where your fingers are too. You guys feel free to use any of these crazy methods that I'm coming up with. For some, it may be OCD, but I will tell you, with the van industry the way it is, getting products and stuff like that, if you can just imagine the cost of this material, and then let's say you have the shipping costs included, but then not only that, you have you've been wanting to make sure that something like this was in stock, for example. So you've been waiting for all that to happen. And so my point is, if you don't take your time and you rush something, and then it damages the floor, then, you know, probably not going to be happy with that. Okay, so it looks like our blade's getting dull. So I'm going to pull it back to a different position. And don't be shy to, break your blades away often. It's going to give you the best and safest cutting surface. All right, doing great. Hold on, Nova. What's good now is we can actually pull up as we're cutting. We can see what we're doing. What's also cool is I'm going to be able to show you guys, put the shower pan in here, and we get to see how it fits after I made that modification to it. Well, modification of the floor, that is. And watch your knees too. Don't want to come in to your knee. That would be really bad. Alright, it's nice and easy. Even though we're right at the edge, just take your time. Alright, so guess what? We took our time and we cut out a perfect, precise piece of the floor. Alright, so now that I don't mess myself up, I'm going to label this front. And so that way I don't have to twist it around like a puzzle piece and figure out where the front is later. Alright, there you go. Put a little arrow front. Let's grab the shower pan and just have some fun with this. This thing is solid steel pan. They do that so that the magnets from the shower will work, because you can't use aluminum. You could use aluminum, but it'll be a pain in the butt. All right, so I can already see that I didn't cut out. I cut out the wood, but I didn't cut out the insulation. Oh, it's okay. It's fine. Look at that. Here, let's take that green tape off. Let's gently put this on the back floor. Again, another no-no, don't leave your blade down like that. All right, so this lines up great. All right. Good to go. I will need to trim off the insulation on this left side because I'm about 1/8 of an inch off of my center hole right here. So front to back is fine. Left to right is the issue. It's not a big deal. But remember, we have our 2 kitchen galleys here, and they're directly on this line, so we need to make sure that's very precise. Let's put the piece of wood in here so we can, that way you guys can see on the camera a little bit better. There you go. So that's where our hidden shower pan is going to go. And then we'll take this Lonseal right here, and this will go like that. And that thing's going to look awesome. Yeah, you definitely got to make sure this is cut out accurately, or it's gonna, yeah, definitely look weird when you put it back in. Okay, enough of that. Let's keep on cutting. So we're working on this passenger side over here. We're going to do the same thing with the tape. Yeah, watch out for your legs. You're coming around your face. Another good thing to do is just put some tape on these sides where, just to give you a heads up about going too far down. Now I'm doing this as if we needed to go all the way down, but depending on how you're laying your floor out, you may not need to do what I'm doing here. You can be more aggressive and cut more out of the floor. So I'm basically, when I go around the edges, I'm acting as if I'm going flush up to the outside of the van, not the floor. I'm going over the floor, but I'm taking enough material off to where the floor is still going to lay down flat while I'm doing the epoxy. The nice thing about that is, just like this corner here, if there's anything touching, I can just shave it out. Just nice and easy. And then when I get done, I'll come back later and do a clean cut after the epoxy has let it, glue down, come down to the floor. So like, for example, this, I know that I can just come straight across here and make sure I'm not cutting my wires behind there. That's very important. So that way I can lay it down. Everything's still good. Again, I'm gonna take this side, I'm gonna cut it out. Don't cut your van's weather stripping. Another danger point. And a way to not do that is just pull it up out of the way as you're cutting it. And this part does not have to be neat. This is just, it's just so that when you put the epoxy down, this is going to lay down flat. Because you're going to get the cleanest reveal if it's laid down flat while the epoxy dries, and then you come back and trim it up. And depending if you have lines in these or you have the coin structure, you can just look down and then just follow up from wherever those coins are, whatever you want to call them. And that's a good way to gauge where you need to be on the floor. So remember, for us, we're not wanting to, the fender is going behind here. So we want, this is where we want the Lonseal flush to the floor area. If you also remember what we did, we cut these sides out to gain access to our plumbing and drain over here. So we want to make sure that we don't cover this up with Lonseal. We can have it overhang for the epoxy purpose, but then we want to make sure we come back and trim it. So I'm just leaving about a, eighth of an inch overhang, and then once the epoxy sets up, we'll cut it from there. So we're almost done on the passenger side. Everything's looking really good. This spot I'm coming back to because I wanted to take my time on it and didn't want to rush. This is where all of our power cables are coming to the floor. It's an area we do not want to screw up. And then even if you have a wire coming out the wall, if you need to make a little notch, just so that wire is not holding the floor from going down all the way, yeah, go ahead and do that. Cut that piece out. I mean, if it's like just a little bit of nothing. Okay, right side done. Well, actually, let's get this piece. This is what I'm talking about. See how if we had the roller in here, this would be a lip. We want it so it's flush and flat. But remember, we've got cables under here, so we still need to. They're not. You actually can't see them, but it's better to be paranoid than cut through a wire that you have very difficult access getting to. Okay, so say we just took this little sliver out, but now all of this is going flush to the floor. Perfect. The whole right side. Passenger side is done. Let's go ahead and let's start working on our driver's side. Remember, our driver's side has our main power. Not only does it have the main power, but it has our piece of floor where the trim is visible. Well, not trim is visible, the transition between our lip, our powder-coated lip, and the floor is visible. So try to make that a very accurate cut. If you can do it. So next we're going to get into this back corner. And what I'm doing, I'm just following the coins here. So I'm just going to follow them a little bit and then see where I need to go. This side's harder because we got to be more precise. This is where the transition piece between the adventure wagon and the floor goes. It's got to be a little bit more precise over here. I cut a little bit more than I wanted to over here. I didn't cut it all the way away, but this will be a good way to, when we do the epoxy, I'll come back over here and I'll show you how we can fix it. Yeah, just go down easy. Keep looking at your where the dots are, the lines, whatever floor you're using. The other reason I put this line in the middle is because if you have the lines in the flooring, you don't want those lines to be crooked as they go to the back. So this method will work for pretty much any floor. And I'm just checking it ever so often to make sure I'm not drifting with my cut. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to keep going down these dots, because I know since we put the floor in even, I know that this is going to work for the rest of the floor. So I'm just going to do it all the way down, and then I'll come in and make my vertical cuts. If you guys aren't subscribed to the channel and you're enjoying this content, I'd love for you guys to subscribe. Definitely helps us grow. If you like this video, definitely give us a thumbs up. And if you're watching it, but you know somebody that's working on their own van, and this might be helpful to them, check it out. So some other stuff that we have that's helpful. We'll just take a little short break here, and I want to show you guys the DIY van build cheat sheet. So we'll look at that really quick. So this is a cheat sheet that I put together, and it's designed to help you guys with saving time and money when you're buying van parts. So we know that can be complicated. So guess what? I took all the purchases that I made over the last 3 years. They're right here. These are all of my Amazon purchases. And there's over 250 items on this list. They're organized between cargo, electrical, we've got fasteners, HVAC, insulation, kitchen, roofing, solar. Solar's really nice. We're gonna have a video on solar coming up pretty soon. But if you go and you hover over the link, you'll actually be able to see the product on Amazon. And not only does it help out the channel using this form, but it helps you guys out because everything is in one place. All these parts have been vetted by me, especially the tools. These tools, this is what I use to shop all the time. We'll be using this PEX tubing cutter, as well as the deburring tools, drill bits, all this stuff. And it's really gonna be a convenient way to help you guys if you're looking for parts for a van and you want a more organized approach. So check it out. It's called the DIY Van Build Cheat Sheet. It's completely free. You just put your name and email address right here. Click download now. It's going to go right to your inbox. You can also find this on vanbuilderhq.com, so our website. And then if you want to, the link in the description below will also give you a link. But it's called the DIY Van Build Cheat Sheet. It's completely free. Go ahead and put your name and email address. It'll come right to your inbox. And I really think it will help you out on your DIY van build, especially if you're looking for parts and you wanted to have a little bit more convenient way for checking them out. Plus, yeah, all the parts have been vetted by me, so it is stuff I'm literally buying and building, using in the shop. So, especially when we get over here to this, the power system, all the screws, nuts, lock washers, all the stuff for the 80/20, that stuff is on the list if you guys want to find a convenient way to find it. But yeah, let's go ahead and let's get back to installing this floor. So again, what I'm doing is following, for me, there's this third coin from the top. It's just allowing me to cruise right on through here. Now, if you feel like you're getting excited, it's good to be excited, but when you're doing this, don't go too fast, because we don't want you to get cut or anything like that, because it does take a little bit of an effort, as you guys can see in you know, cutting this like I'm doing. So okay, almost done. Let's go ahead and finish this piece off. Perfect. So see, very evenly we took off the whole left-hand side. We're going to go back to the middle. We had this one column, pillar, whatever you want to call it, but we're just going to come straight down, not all the way. Again, patience is our friend on this build. We do not want to stop the whole video, order more stuff because we got too excited with the process. And you see I cut, well, you probably can't see, but I cut about a ½ an inch too low. The good news is I'm going to show you tricks on how we are going to conceal that. Basically what we're going to do is the epoxy is going to do it for us. That slit, once the epoxy goes down, it's going to be the same level. But again, the leniency part on this build is that this is all covered up by Adventure Wagon interior components, as well as the Adventure Wagon trim pieces. So we don't really have to be that careful, but the good part is if we are that careful, then we don't have to worry about anything. We just keep on trucking. All right, so right here, you need to cut here and be very careful because this is where the heart of the van is. This is like the main artery. So our 120 volt lines are right here where I'm cutting. Okay. It's nice and easy. We got to about right there. Again, tape is your friend. It's going to help you know if you're getting close to going too far. That's exactly what we want to avoid. Okay, there we go. Now this we are going to cut flush, because we know what we're doing over here, because the wood flooring is becoming our template. It's going to give us a nice clean edge. But we have our power wires directly under there, so if we were to slip, we could cut those. That's why we got to be, again, just nice and easy. Okay. And now we can cut this piece out of the way. Also, the overhang helps you. So right here, for example, this is going to be covered up by 80/20, but I see a little bit of the white floor. The reason we want to always have that little bit of an 1/8 of an inch overhang is because when we put the roller on the floor, it's going to squeeze out some of the epoxy and it's going to drip over the edge, which is perfectly normal. But the issue is, if you don't have that lip, in my opinion, you could roll it. Some of that epoxy will get on your roller, and then when you back roll, that epoxy is going to go on your brand new floor, and that's not good. So if you do what I just was talking about, that's what I advise that you do. All right, so right here, we get the same thing over here. I want to make sure that we are cutting this right where we need to. So we found our dots. All right, we're just going to follow our dots. So that's really important that top to bottom, left to right is nice and accurate, so that we can take advantage of the grid pattern on the floor. All right, next step is to not cut our wires, our wires back here. So we're going to come straight down on this side very carefully. Extremely carefully. There you go. Okay. And then this one we can kind of play with. We can just cut this excess off really quick. Get it out of our way. And remember, don't worry about this. As long as it's not peeling up, we're good. This is not even right here because remember, we're putting the wheel well cover over there with the insulation. All right, and then here, so I'm not going to cut this back edge. I will cut this corner because I want to do something on this back edge that we're saving for another video. So right now you're not gonna see me do it, but you'll probably get it. I want to extend the floor out a little bit more because all right. So this one we got to be extra careful. We have all of our communication wires right down there. Okay, so that's good. All right, now let's, not that we couldn't have done that before, but now let's cut this front piece off. We'll work on our back. We'll trim around this back side, and yeah, that'll be it for this one. The next time we'll be mixing up our epoxy, putting our floor down. Triple check your wires. There we go. Also, if you got some weather seal or those seals for your van, make sure you're not cutting into them. This one right over here is really close to where I need to cut. All right, guess what, guys? We made it to the back of the van. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill 2 more holes, and they're going to be on this outer edge. That way I can, we've got our trim piece, so it's going to be covered, but it's just going to make it easier to cut this outer piece. Actually, let's just go for it here. So I'm going to have to get some more anyway. You can do that if you guys wanted to. I'm pretty comfortable with how I'm cutting everything right now, so I'm just going to do this freehand on the back. Get a better angle here. Can the camera go down lower? Can you go down lower? There we go. Actually, I bet I didn't change the camera angle. That thing was going crazy, guys, so sorry if it was zooming in and out a bunch. That's it. All right, we did it. Cut the floor out. So this is what I mean by there we go. Ooh. All right, this is what I mean by trimming the floor out. Everything in here now can lay very flat. We've got our locator pins, I guess we call it, or screws. So we got one in the front taped, one in the back taped. The floor is also marked. So the only thing that we need to be cautious of is there is just the slightest little, ripple in the floor, and that's just because it's not completely laid out. So I'm just gonna leave this here until we do the epoxy, and I'll take it out and blow it out, and then we'll do the epoxy. But this, so front to back, this is gonna allow us to put this back in its home position when we get done. So next video will be actually doing the epoxy. So this will be it for this video. We'll just call this the video to show you guys how to trim out the floor, your flooring, before you put it in. I highly suggest you do this because, as I said, through this whole thing, the raised up corners, not allowing that to really contact your adhesive. It dries, and then now you got this curl that won't ever go down. This is just my personal opinion, the best method. So hope this helps you guys if you're doing a DIY floor yourself, or you're just interested in building a van out and wanting to see how to do it. If you have any questions, put those in the comments below. Definitely like to see those comments because it helps me decide, where we need to put stuff for future videos, or write stuff for future videos. Be sure to check out vanbuilderhq.com. We got some good blog posts on there for you guys to read through. And that is it for putting the floor in and prepping it with trimming up all the edges. I hope to see you guys in the next live stream. And once again, don't forget to check out the DIY van build cheat sheet. Get subscribed to the channel, like this video, share it if you have any friends that would be this would be beneficial to them. And we will see you guys in the next live stream.